Welcome back to another edition of the Here We Go podcast. It is Misery Monday, and I mean Misery Monday in every stretch of the word. If you have been on social media whatsoever, even if it was for 5 minutes after the Eagles loss, I think it's pretty abundant that people were losing their minds. It was an ugly game. There's no two ways about it. I think a lot of people had higher expectations for that game than Colin and I may have had, because on Friday's edition, if you missed it, go back and rewatch it. We basically called out step by step everything that was going to happen in this game, and for the most part, it happened. The Eagles were just the better team. I think that they match up better with the Steelers, more so than probably every other team in contention right now. The Lions might be another one that would be a tough matchup for us. But I'll be honest with you, I just really feel like the Eagles' strengths play so well against our strengths that being down guys like George Pickens, being down guys like Deshon Elliott, and even Larry Ogunjobi to some degree was a lot. It was a lot to take on against a team that just has so much of an answer against our strengths. And I felt like this was a game where the young offensive line got kind of taken to the ringer a little bit. They could not hold up against the Eagles' defensive front. Having said all of that, I think Arthur Smith's game plan was the biggest downfall of the entire game. I didn't think offensively or defensively we had a good game plan going into this. That was abundantly clear, as on the first drive of the game, the Eagles walked the ball down and score. Well, it was held to a field goal, but, they're putting points on the board on their first drive of the game with relative ease. And honestly, if it's not for a TJ Watt sack, they may have done more damage. So it was a slow start defensively. It was a god-awful start offensively. It wasn't even slow. It was just god-awful. Pound the ball up the middle twice. Throw the ball on 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 10. 3 and out. I mean, that was the first two series of the game. Now, Colin and I talked so much about this on Friday that you are not going to run the ball up the middle against this Eagles defensive front. Jordan Davis is every bit of 345 pounds, 350 pounds, whatever he is. I know he ain't playing at whatever weight he's listed at. Jalen Carter's been an absolute monster. And the Eagles were going to run a 5-man front against every time we put out 12 and 13 personnel. And that's exactly what they did. They stacked the box. They were in 5-man fronts. At times, they had 6-man fronts. And the linebackers were ready to come downhill every time. And we didn't do anything about it. And I know the argument is going to be you'd rather have a guy like Darnell Washington on the field than a guy like Scotty Miller. But in my opinion, the only way we were going to be able to have success as an offense was to spread this Philly defense out. And I mean, I was going as far as to say, don't even have Pat Freiermuth on the end of the line of scrimmage. Have him in a split out of the slot. Almost like a 4-wide set. That's what this team needed to do if they were going to have any success running the football. I also talked about running off tackle a good bit. I talked about running crosser routes. Now, the problem was, I'm not sure Russell Wilson was going to have enough time for the crosser routes to develop because the Eagles front was really winning a lot of battles one-on-one. Basically all of them. But to line up and play the game the way we've been playing all season just was not going to work in this one. And it didn't. We had no success. Offensively, I'm not sure you could point to someone and say they had a great game. I mean, that guy, of everybody, maybe Calvin Austin, 5 catches, 65 yards. But let's be honest, half of it came on one play, which was a trick play flea flicker. It wasn't from outright winning his route. But he still accounted for about half of Russell Wilson's total yards. I think Wilson had 128 total yards of throwing the football. And Russ didn't have a good game. Honestly, Russ did not have a good game. And to some degree, I can't blame him. I mean, the weapons that were on the field are just not good. And this was the first game I think we found as Steeler fans that it was abundantly clear that we do not have another wide receiver. Talked in the pregame show about getting Pat Freiermuth open, designing plays. When I was texting a friend of mine early in the game, I said Pat Freiermuth better have at least 10 receptions in this game if we're going to have a chance. That didn't happen. Mike Williams is getting ramped up into this offense, and we're getting him moving in this offense. 2 targets, 1 catch, 15 yards, which was short of the first down on a 3rd and 18. I mean, that's a gimme catch. The defense just saying, okay, we're going to give this to you because you're not even at the first down line yet. There is no ramping up Mike Williams. And his utilization and usage right now isn't any better than it was in New York. Calvin Austin is the best receiver on the field without George Pickens. And that's not a good place to be. And I'm not even saying that in a disrespectful way to Calvin Austin, but you cannot have a 5'9", 165-pound guy being the best receiver on your field. Ever. Period. Never. It's not going to work. We're running designed plays for guys like Van Jefferson to get him open. Not Pat Freiermuth. Not Mike Williams. Van Jefferson. That happened on 3 separate occasions in this game. The guy is not a good receiver. He has no business being targeted unless he's wide open. Scotty Miller is not a good receiver. There's a reason he was available when he was available this offseason. He's not a good receiver. He damn sure has no business being on the outside, which is where he's been playing at times. And for the crowd out there hoping that Roman Wilson gets back into the fold, I got news for you. That dude's shut down for the year. I mean, it's not official by any means, but he's a rookie wide receiver who missed all of training camp and the entire regular season with 3 games left. There are 3 big games. 2 big games, I should say, I guess. The Bengals game, I don't think Joe Burrow is going to end up playing in that game. They're out of it. I don't think there's a reason for him to play. Why would they injure him? Why would they risk him or Jamar Chase getting hurt? That's another story for another day. There's no possible way I can see them effectively getting him up to speed in this offense this late in the year as a rookie. And people are calling him a bust, and isn't it? How are you calling a guy a bust who's never played a single snap in the NFL? I mean, like, guys, calm down. Rookies are not good. Third-round rookies are not going to step on the field right away and be major factors the majority of the time. Especially guys who haven't seen the field since the first padded practice, the second or third play of padded practice as a rookie. He's not even been dressed. It's not happening. Now, defensively, I mean, my gosh. When your defense is on the field for 40 minutes out of a 60-minute game, a lot went wrong. And I mean a lot went wrong. Your offense wasn't moving the ball. We really had one good drive this game. One. But when you have an offense that's not moving the football, and they're giving it back, and they're giving it back with turnovers, the defense is going to stop working. They're going to get tired, especially when they're undermanned. And the Eagles wore them down. I mean, there's no two ways about it. The Eagles' offensive line is fantastic. They lost some guys in this game. Landon Dickerson basically went out in, I think, the second quarter and didn't return. But they still held up. Those two all-world tackles, for the most part, they really did their job, and they were going one-on-one, which is what really opened up so much of this offense for Philly, is that if you can have your five linemen blocking one-on-one against our guys, you're going to have success against the secondary. And I think the biggest talking point of this needs to be about Joey Porter Jr. struggling against big physical wide receivers. A.J. Brown did whatever he wanted. And I mean whatever he wanted. And I heard Joey talking afterwards about, oh, well, he's pushing off, and, you know, I got to play my technique, but he's pushing off, blah, blah, blah. They're going to have to help him figure something out. Because A.J. Brown was doing what every other receiver in the NFL does on a route-by-route basis. He's just way stronger than the rest of the receivers in the NFL. Joey was not going to out-physical a guy like A.J. Brown, which is when he needs to learn how to run with these guys. And he can't. He just cannot seem to do that. He's trying to play physical with them. They're throwing him off, and then he's trailing the rest of the route. He's got to figure something else out. There's got to be a plan B as a DB. You can't expect to win with your technique every single time, because some guys are going to be better than your technique, which means you have to have a plan B and learn to attack in a different way. And Joey he's not figured that out. I think of all the things that can be a concern for the rest of the season is if we face a guy who's big, strong, and physical and can run like A.J. Brown or T. Higgins or some of these other receivers he's really struggling with, we've got to rely on other guys in the secondary, and they're proving that they're just not very good. The secondary is only as good as the pass rush right now. And when the pass rush can't get there at times during a game, the secondary is not doing its job. To some degree, that's been the staple of this defense for a while. But A.J. Brown's able to do whatever he wants in this game. Devonta Smith was able to do whatever he wanted in this game. And with Minkah Fitzpatrick playing out of position, there is no one to stay away from. I actually thought Minkah Fitzpatrick played a good game in Deshon Elliott's role, which is what he was doing most of the game, if not the entire game. I actually thought Minkah had a nice game. But the rest of the guys were not very good. KZ, not very good in this game. Tackled pretty nicely, except for when Saquon, left him hanging out there for a while. But Saquon got Dante Jackson too, to be fair. Had these guys grabbing at air. The secondary wasn't very good in this game. The Eagles were able to throw the ball anywhere they wanted. Jalen Hurts had a fantastic game. I mean, he was very accurate with the football. He was decisive with the football. They had a game plan to get A.J. Brown involved. They got A.J. Brown involved. Then they started getting Devonta Smith involved, and they really were able to do whatever they wanted. Saquon didn't have the greatest game running the ball. And then, of course, as the game wore down in that final stretch and the defense kind of gave out, he started finding more success. But I thought overall, they contained Saquon Barkley for the most part, and part of that was because he was out for most of the second quarter due to injury. They didn't say it was an injury, but let's be honest, he was banged up, and there was some form of injury there. So the defense just could not get themselves off the field. The Eagles' offensive line established their will. I think a lot of people got a firsthand look at exactly how good Deshon Elliott is and how good he's been all season, because we missed him. We missed him bad in this game. They may have thought twice about throwing to the middle of the field the way they were doing it if Minkah Fitzpatrick is the deep safety. And some of these seam routes that they hit, a couple, I can think of Devonta Smith on that 2nd and 20 where he gets 22 yards, which was absolutely ridiculous. They basically ran the same play, I think, on one side of the field. I would have to rewatch it to be sure, but I really think they ran the same damn play and just flipped the formation on two of Smith's big time catches. I could be wrong, but thinking back, I really think they ran the same play twice. But when Minkah's not deep, you're able to throw on this secondary pretty easily. And when Deshon Elliott's not in the box, there's a lot that goes wrong. So, as well as Minkah played in his role, it really opened up a lot for the passing game for the Eagles because Elliott wasn't down low and Minkah wasn't playing deep to try to deter some of these throws. That mattered in this game. And I think the deficiencies that we've been hiding all season really came to play. This team did not adjust very well. I actually thought Terrell Austin started to adjust as the game went on much, much better than Arthur Smith did. I don't think Arthur Smith ever really did adjust. We had one gimmick play, which was the best play of the day for us, and that was kind of it. And we never tried a lot of different things. And Colin and I talked about digging into your bag of tricks and digging to the bottom of the playbook to find something to use against the Eagles that they haven't seen. And it was one play. It was a flea flicker. That was it. That was all we tried. So again, this is another loss where I talk about a team's strengths playing well to the strengths of the Steelers, and we don't adjust. That's coaching. In large part, offensively, I felt like coaching killed us. The lack of George Pickens absolutely is going to affect your game plan. It's absolutely going to affect how efficient you are, how effective you are as an offense. But I got news for the people out there who say, oh, if we had Pickens, we'd have won. That dude wasn't adding 14 points to this game. I mean, you could argue there are some games out there where he's so good that he would have added 14 points to the scoreboard. It wasn't going to be this one because Quinyon Mitchell is the real deal. Their entire secondary is very good. Very good. Probably the best secondary we've faced all. Actually, that's not even a probably. They are by far the best secondary we faced all season. When Cooper DeJean is your third corner on the field, Blankenship has had a pretty nice season. Gardner Johnson is one your other safety. They have a nice secondary, man. I'm telling you, they have a really good secondary. He wasn't adding 14 points to this game, in my opinion. Yes, it changes some outlook. Yes, they have to respect him, and maybe it changes some of their fronts. Maybe it changes the way that their game plan is. I don't think it would have changed a ton because I think they were pretty comfortable with Mitchell or Slay lining up against George Pickens and trying to contain him. I don't think this was a game where you would say, oh, okay, we need to really force feed George in this when we're going to make sure he gets like 140 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. He's got 3 touchdowns on the season, and y'all are saying he's going to add 14 points to this game. It wasn't happening. The Eagles were just a better team in this one, and that's just what it boiled down to. And that's okay. Sometimes you can be a really good team, and a team just happens to match up really good with you. Ask the Ravens every time they play the Steelers. Lamar Jackson has never had a good game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We just match up against him, but everybody else he seems to just absolutely destroy. Sometimes you run into somebody that is really, really good against your strengths. That's what happened in the Eagles game. We were in their turf. There were some officiating calls that went against us. The one in the end zone with Calvin Austin and Darnell Washington getting flagged, but 2 dudes from the Eagles throwing multiple punches don't. That's horrible officiating. But yes, did that cost us a touchdown and momentum in that game? Probably. Did it cost us the game? Hell no. The Eagles had 3 times the amount of yards that we did in this game. And more, they had like 67% of the freaking play time. The time of possession. So officiating didn't lose this game. Missing players didn't lose this game. The Eagles just beat us. And that's all there is to it. And that's okay. It's a loss. It's a tough loss. The score was respectable. They didn't blow us out. Even in spite of all of the things that went wrong, they didn't blow us out. We still had chances to get back in that game. We just didn't execute. And you know what? Now we go to Baltimore. Because we clinched a playoff. We're going to make the playoff no matter what at this point. We've already clinched a playoff spot. And guess what? If we beat Baltimore next week, all is right in the world because we are the AFC North champions. So rather than focusing on how we got cheated or we should have had these guys and we could have won or this and that, just acknowledge the fact that the Eagles played a better game than we played and move on to Baltimore. That's all there is to it. Colin and I, of course, will be doing a more in-depth, detailed recap of this game on Wednesday. Be live at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Feel free to join in throw up some questions, comments. We always try to throw them up on the channel when you do that. Please always like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching the videos, and I hope y'all have a great day.